So while China was turning inward, we actually began to see Western Europe emerge and begin to play a bigger role in world affairs. And this was kind of a growing trend. If you remember back at the beginning of the post classical period, Western Europe was really kind of a backward society, very rural, serfdom and the manorial system kind of dominated. And they really weren't tied in to the larger trade networks. Well, that's going to begin to change in the second half of this post classical period. And by the end of this post classical period, Europe really begins to play a bigger role across Eurasia. And so it begins with some changes in Europe. And we're going to see, especially after the Crusades, they begin to be more tied into things going on in Asia. They're reconnected to the trade routes. Technologies are going to flood from Asia into Western Europe. We begin to see a weakening in the power of the church, especially after the Great Schism, which led to that permanent split between the Eastern and Western church. We're also going to see political changes. We're going to see, instead of the old feudal system dominating, we're going to see kings begin to build up some centralized power. And the way they did this was by implementing new tax systems where taxes were paid directly to the central state. They built up new, more powerful armies that were loyal to the central king. And so this helped kind of break the power of the old feudal nobility. We're also going to see the impact of the Black Death. The Black Death is going to kill about 1/3 of Europe's population. And with that, it led to, much like it did in China, labor shortages. And so this is going to have a huge impact on the old manorial system. Now, serfs were in high demand. Their labor was in high demand. And so they could demand changes to the old serf system. And so the impact of the Black Death is going to actually help break up the old feudal system and the old manorial system. So with that, we're going to see more powerful centralized nations begin to arise after the Hundred Years' War especially. So the Hundred Years' War is going to help spread nationalism, a devotion to one's nation. It's also going to help bring an end to the old medieval knight system. It becomes outdated. And that's going to be replaced by basically peasants armed with longbows, became more effective than the old medieval knights. We're also going to see new military technology spread to Europe, especially the use of guns. We're going to see capitalism begin to expand. And this goes hand in hand with urbanization, which goes hand in hand with an expansion of trade. With more trade, we see more wealth begin to seep into Western Europe. And with that came a bigger emphasis on cities. And so we do begin to see more cities spread in Western Europe as well. We're going to see banks expand, which is going to help facilitate trade. Another thing that brings rapid change to Western Europe is new technologies. We're going to see a wide variety of technologies from Asia spread to Western Europe. And so this includes things like gunpowder, which is going to lead to the development of guns. We're going to see better shipbuilding techniques. We're going to see the printing press, movable type, spread from Asia to Europe. And in Europe, it was much more effective because it was easier. In China, movable type never fully replaced block printing because they have so many symbols. Well, in Europe, where you only have 26 symbols in your alphabet, movable type made a lot of sense. And so beginning with Gutenberg and his printing press, we're going to see books be made much faster and easier and therefore cheaper, and more people could afford to buy books. And as more people could afford books, literacy rates are going to increase across Europe.